So you have a pile of signatures. They're already scrapped and you've got all your photos in there. You've got your stories in there. You are ready to make your book. How wide do you make your spine? How do you know? What if you make it too small and the book ends up like, like this? Or if you make it too big and it ends up, like this, and you don't want it like that. How do you know? How do you know? Well, today we are going to learn how to get your spine the right size the first time. Yes. All right. This is Wendy, and let's go. So this was my monster book, and it was pretty big. I did make the decision to take this signature out. I'm going to use, I'm not throwing it away. Oh my gosh, no. I'm going to use it to begin the next book after this one, which will have other Christmas stuff besides Disney in it. Yes, I do stuff besides Disney. I really do. So anyway, so how do I know what size to make my spine? Well, I actually have already made the spine, but I started with just having those there just so I can set this on here. Okay, because without it, it was falling over. I didn't have it balanced well and it was falling over. Then, so Cheerios is my box of choice. It's a little thicker than some of the others. So I know I need this to be 8 inches because I've measured it. This is how I am going to determine how tall to make it, how fat to make it. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of set on here and I'm gonna mark. But I want to mark in more than one place because my husband says always to measure twice. I don't want to press down too hard. Measure twice, cut once. However, whenever he doesn't do that, because he doesn't, and I'm the same way, you get the wrong size. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. So 4 of these stacked works for what I'm trying to do. All right, so now I'm gonna take my ruler. Oh look, they're all pretty much the same size. And it's right about, it's a little less than 2.5. I'm gonna give it a little bit more wiggle room though. So I'm gonna cut it. I don't know why I had that mark there, but that's where I'm gonna cut it at. Just gonna give it just a little bit more, just because I wanna give it a little bit more wiggle room. So I'm gonna now cut this. How big is this piece right here? Oh, it's perfect. I'm also gonna trim this down so I'll have a 1 inch and then whatever that is. Okay, so now I have a piece to go over here. So I'm gonna show you one other thing that I'm gonna do. When you get the book, this is where the hinge is, but I'm changing that hinge. I want the hinge to be here. So now I'm gonna cover with this and I will glue it down. But before I do that, I want it to be nice and glued down like I did on this one. I don't know if you can tell, but I glued it down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my PVA glue, and I could use a Distress Collage Medium. Either one of them will work. I have a nice little, this one flows better. That's my biggest thing. I've decided I need to use my Distress Collage Medium, and I have to press really hard to get it out of the bottle. I don't know why. Maybe because I've had it sitting on the shelf for a while, but I remember that being a problem even before. So now I want this to go, and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take a paper clip. Yes, I am. Because I don't want to sit here and hold it for an hour. Come on, do what I want you to do. There we go. Yeah, so keep that down. Maybe I won't. it won't have it go. I'll keep both of those on. There we go. So I'm going to put several of these on. This is exactly what I did with the other one. And let it sit for a little while. Okay, and I'm going to set that aside. So now I have this. Now I had a question. Well, I was asked a question. How's that? I was asked a question. How do I know how wide to set these apart? So I cut some copy paper. I do have some copy paper that is 35 pound instead of 20 pound. I like that it is a little heavier. I need to, tape. Just looking for tape. So this is the first time I am trying this. But I was thinking about it and I was thinking this should really work. This should be good. Now, okay, first let me show you something else. So I did this many months ago out of cardstock even. And so this is the same size, yes. So this is 2.5 inches. And I had 3 signatures. I have 3 signatures. And I went in and I made it even. So I folded, and then I folded in twice. All right. And now they're all even. Now this is perfectly fine if you are filling the book with the exact same size signatures. So like if you're doing a book that hasn't been already filled. So I do my books different than your basic junk journaler because instead of making a book and now adding stuff to it, I make all of my signatures first and then I put them in the book. And that kind of goes a little more with your basic scrapbook mentality because that's how you do it when you're doing 12 by 12. So I'm trying to get these to line up. Push that one in. Okay. So you can see the point, right? Now, and this is a piece of paper, and I put it on here, and I need to be careful that, okay, so now I need to be able to figure out how to get a pencil and how to do this all at the same time. Yeah, I know. That's seems problematic. Okay, so I played around with this a little bit, and I found out that if I push this against, push the whole thing against my chest, that I could get this. I'm going to check it again now that I've already made the marks. I want to see if this is where I really want them, and guess what? It is. I might want to move them over a bit. And if my husband was home, I would have had him help me. So now I am going to, I'll measure. So that's right about 1/2 inch, which is what I want. So let me pull out that other one. So if all of my signatures were exactly the same width, this would be what I would use. But they're not. Some are fatter than the others, depending on what I was doing. So see how, like, This first one is about the same. The second one's almost about the same. But the third one needs to be in a little more just because this first one is really ultra fat. So this is a little better, let me do something first. This is a better representation of how the signatures are going to fit in my journal. So now I'm going to take this off and I'm going to cut. Thinking one of my lines is a little bit crooked, but when I fold them, I will straighten that out. Okay. I decided I'm going to make life even easier for myself. I have this handy dandy little guy here. So now I've got the fold in the middle and the two on either side. Okay, make sure I've got that nicely folded. Okay. So the next thing you do, I want to do a 5 hole pamphlet stitch. Let's see, so this one I need to do a 1/2 inch at the top and at the bottom. By the way, I'm going to call this top. It helps to keep things organized. I'm going to do a 1/2 inch off the top. And a 1/2 inch off the bottom. And so now I'm going to fold in. And meet the one in the middle. Ah, who thought this would be so hard? I've only done this multiple times too, so because I'm doing it on camera, it's not as easy. All right, so now you're gonna say, but Wendy, I can't see that. Yeah, I can't either. So, ta-da! Magic marker, right? So you're gonna mark right. Make sure it's in the right place. And then again. So the next step actually is to start making this, because I'm not going to use this until I have my fabric on here. So since this is 2.5, pretty as much right at 2.5. I want 1 inch over on either side. So that's going to be 4.5. So I want 4.5 by 8 out of my Tyvek, and I want 4.5 by 8 out of my fabric, although not by 8, 4.5 by however long it is, because I get mine in a fat quarter, and it is just the right amount that it can overlap a bit when it's all done. So 4.5 inches and then overlap it. I glue all of that down. It's all ready. In fact, I'll already have it on my book. Where is my book? Here it is. These should be done by now. So I already have it on here. And then I will put this down. and punch. See, like that one didn't take. No worries. There's still a little bit of the staple in there. To get the staple out, you have to rip this. I don't want to rip it. So that's one of the reasons why I put the cardboard down. Then you're not going to get your finger cut. So when I am done, and top goes on the top. Did I do that wrong though? I did. Okay, you know what? I am so not perfect. And I'm gonna be fine with it. This is the top. And the reason I remember that is the very first signature is the fattest. So I need to have that space. So, yeah, so this is the top. And this is why it's important, right? Especially if they aren't exact. So then I will, once this has fabric on it, okay, I will punch my holes. I'll tape it down and I'll punch my holes really, really, really good. And a lot of times after I've punched my hole and it's right on the fabric, I will do what I just did here. I will grab my Sharpie and I will mark those just so I can see them. And then you do each individual one. So just to review the steps, step 1 is to glue the 1x8 or the 1 by however long your cover is, because some of them are shorter, with PVA glue. Glue them down. Step 2 is going to be to glue this onto the Tyvek. So this is now glued with, again, with PVA glue, okay? All right, full disclosure, I am watching the video that has this on the cover. It's from 2024. It says it's 11 months ago, so like July 2024. So I'm watching it just to remember exactly what to do. Okay, so I've got my fabric on my Tyvek and my Tyvek on my sides, and now I'm going to pull this down. One thing that I have got to remind myself is that I need to pull this down really tight there, or else I have it all bunchy. Okay, so now I have it on right. Santa shows up just right. So the next thing I'm going to do is put this down, and it does help to either clip it or tape it. Probably I need to make sure that I fit it, because there's the crease right there. So fit it inside the crease. So I do have it inside the crease. So I think I'm just going to clip it. And I'll clip it at the top and the bottom. And I made sure that the right top was at the right, because the fattest one is the very first signature. So do that. And then at the bottom. And then having it all really does help. I used to just use, I call them pokey tools or picky tools. I just used to just stick one of these in, just one of these in. But if you'll notice, it doesn't get wider. I don't know if you can. Whereas an awl gets wider. So that's really helpful. And so I'm gonna make my holes deep enough that it's gonna be easy to find the hole to stitch it. So here's another trick. I was having a hard time getting in that one. An old book that you just get at a thrift store. I was having a hard time getting the right leverage to be able to punch all the way through. So I was able to then start it into the book, which is really helpful. Okay, so now that it's all punched, I set that aside. I am going to grab my Sharpie because I really can't see it very well, but I can feel where they go. And on the inside, they just are not going to show. I've even done marks on the outside if I've needed to. If after you stitch it, it's not perfectly straight, you know, your line isn't perfectly straight. It is a junk journal. It is meant to be an expression of art. And it is not really meant to be absolutely perfect. So the next step then is stitch in. And gotta find the middle. Here's the middle. Gotta make sure it's all nice in there so that and even and clipped. I did notice that my the glue job that I did probably several months ago, possibly a year ago, was a little bit loose, just on the edge, not all the way. So I decided to put a little bead of glue in there. Okay. I've also noticed that I need to put a bead of glue. This is going to be the Fabric Fix. And I am going to put a clip there too. And I'm just going to set this aside. I wonder if I should just go like this. I think I will. Like that. The rest is on good. Okay. So I've pulled my book out again. And that's not what I want. This is what I want. I guess I'm going to, let's see. I want to make sure it's down in the crease. Okay, and I'm going to move this over to here. There we go. So now I'm going to take a much smaller permanent marker and just make sure that I can see these holes. And this is waxed twine, waxed thread. It's thick though. It's not like sewing machine thread. Definitely want to do like at least 3 times. There we go. I'll probably have some left over. So you go in through the middle, all right? Going through the middle, and now you're gonna come up just the next one up. So now I'm gonna go through here, and I'm gonna go through here, Make sure that I can get it all the way through. So now I've gone in and I started in the middle. Wherever you want to put your knot is where you want to start. So if you want your knot on the outside, then start going from the outside in instead of from the inside out. And depending on the project, sometimes I do want to start from the outside in because I don't want that knot in the middle. I'm going to pull this kind of mostly through. There we go. So now I'm going to go through the top, and sometimes, like, in fact, when I first started doing this, I would clip the whole thing through. I have honestly found it is a lot easier. In fact, right now that I have it already started, I can get rid of some of these clips because they do get in the way. But I can pull it tight afterwards. Okay, so now I'm going to go back through this one. I want to make sure I don't split my thread. That can be a problem. I'm going to pull things tight again. Okay, so I went through there. Now I need to go through here. Actually, it'd be easier to go through here before I pull tight. Okay, so now you're going to skip the middle one. You're going to go all the way down to the second to the last one and go through. Okay, so now you want to go through the last one. And if you do have a hard time seeing that last hole, you can make a pencil mark or some kind of a mark on the outside. It really isn't going to show as long as it's small. Okay, and so then you're going to go through this one. I'm going to start tightening things up though. Okay, so now I'm going to go through that second to the last one. Now, this point, I really need to tighten everything up. Make sure it's nice and tight because now we're going to pull here. And pull here. Okay. So now I'm going to go through this middle one again. Again, I really don't want to split that thread. I also want to get it on the opposite side of this middle. Snip, make a knot. Now I'm going to snip again. There we go. And you got to do it 2 more times. However, I totally forgot that I'm going to want to put an eyelet in for my charm. So before I move on, I'm going to end up putting an eyelet up here. But you get the idea. You see how it goes. That's pretty straight. Look at that. I'm happy. I've definitely, practice makes perfect, I guess. Practice actually definitely helps you to improve your skill. I'm probably going to glue, and this is something I can even do after I've done all the stitching, but glue this right in here just to tighten that up a little bit too. I was really good about pulling both ends tight so that this isn't sloppy there. But I decided to turn my camera on because this is what I would call a happy accident. I was watching a video while I was stitching, and I was stitching away, and it's all going well. I'm stitching well. I've got my eyelet right there. I haven't made my little dangle, which I will. And this is then, this is actually supposed to be in between these two. And only for the story. I mean, that's the only reason it needs to be in between the two, not for any other reason. These photos and everything are just fine on their own. I don't need to have the little bit of story that I had in there. To be really honest, I was struggling with making this part of the story fit with this part of the my scrapbook. So this is the one that I had set aside to send, to put in the next journal, which is what I'm going to do with these here. And it's a little thicker than this one. And it always was a little thicker than this one. So when I gave that a little extra wiggle room, I shouldn't have done that, because this is gonna be perfect. It's gonna be perfect. One other thing I just wanted to mention, I have, like with both these two, I have left the strings long, instead of like snugging it all up while I am stitching. And just to repeat that you start from the side that you want your knot in. I have done several projects where the book was tiny. Well, in fact, here's one right here. I wanted the knot on the outside. So then you should go from the outside in if you want the knot on the outside. But I am finding that I prefer to leave this gap with my threads not tight. Just so if I want to like set the book down and pull this a little bit, just makes it so much easier to go through. If I do it tight here, then I don't really have any wiggle room. You know me with my wiggle room. Well, I didn't need as much wiggle room with my spine. So I will keep that in mind for my next one. So I should trust when I measure instead of going, well, maybe I should make it a little bigger. The reason I'm just so worried I'm gonna make, well, I don't know about making a mistake so much as, because you know there's no mistakes in junk journaling, but I am a little worried about not having it big enough. So now I'm just gonna do a little bit of that wiggling just to get my thread a little more under control. Okay, so you've already seen me do the rest, but I just wanted to show you that. So the button wasn't red enough for me, so I used Lumberjack Distress Paint, and I used Candied Apple Spray Stain. I was gonna use this, but I didn't, so yeah. Okay, so I put my eyelet in. I didn't want it to get involved with this. That was my whole decision. So I'm gonna put it right there. And I'm gonna stitch it with the black. And I'll use my awl wherever it went to make my holes. I could put that in that book. I do move my finger away. I have stabbed myself because, you know, I'm an idiot. I don't know, because I get excited and I get, you know, anyway. So I have stabbed myself. It is no fun. So I do move my fingers away so that I am punching into the air. Just went through. And again, I want to make my holes big enough that I can see them, that I can stitch easily. I used to try to make them as small as possible so that they didn't show. I don't do that anymore. So I'm gonna thread it with both threads going through my needle. So then I just need to think about how I want to do this. That's it. I'm gonna go through the back. See, I didn't make my hole big enough. So I'm gonna pull my awl out again to make it big enough that it's not gonna be a problem. So through the back, through the button, down around, and through the loop. It's kind of like learning how to tie your shoes, right? Go through the hole, go through the loop. However, I don't want to tighten this down quite yet. I think that's enough give right there. So I'm gonna go back through a hole. And before I go through the button again, I'm gonna go around a few times. Now I can go through, I don't know that I need to go through the button. I just need to go through a hole. There we go. Got caught. Now, I'm gonna put it this way. Let's see if you can see it. Okay. Now I'm just going to, I'm gonna go through that loop there. All right, now we've got the knot. And now, there. Okay, so now you just bring this up and bring it around, and you can go around the whole book. I'm not real fond of that. I'm gonna bring it around a third time. No, yes, I am. And I'm going to cut some off. You can make little knots at the bottom. I only do that just so that it doesn't fray. You could put little charms to dangle down there if you want. Now I'm going to make my charm to put here. Okay, it is finished. This is the dangle. I used just some corrugated cardboard, and the dies are from different Tim Holtz sets. This is from a Christmas postage set that he has, a stamp. And yeah, it's done. I am very happy with it. I'll be doing a flip through of the whole book probably in a week or so. Not exactly sure when. I have other stuff going on, but I wanted to get this done, and I'm really happy that I did. And I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it helped with knowing how big to make your spine, and also how far to keep these apart. This does, well, if it stands up, it alligators. Pretty much they all do. But yeah, I may shorten that. Again, I want wiggle room. How stupid is that, right? Oh, well. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, please give it a big thumbs up. Hit that notification bell and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.